It's easy to get disillusioned with ordinary life, but what if there's more to it than meets the eye?
Everyday ordinary life is where extraordinary faith is built. It's where we actually get to walk with Jesus.
This podcast is all about looking at all of life, the highs, the lows, and plateaus, through the lens of a journey with Jesus.
Whoever you are, wherever you're at, God sees you and wants to walk with you.
Only when you choose to do life with Him does the ordinary become wonderful. Hello!
What's up?
Welcome back to Wonderfully Ordinary. We're your hosts, Sammy.
And Stasha.
And it's so good to be here with you guys. This is our last episode of our first season.
Can you believe that we have released a whole season worth of episodes?
That's crazy. I can't believe it either. But honestly, it's been such a sweet journey, and thank you for all of you who've listened, whether you've listened to just a couple episodes or
maybe this is your first episode.
Yeah,
you
exactly. But whatever the case may be, we're just happy to be on this journey with you guys, and also just to be like walking in obedience to the Lord to see what He's teaching us through all of this, you know? But this episode, because we're going to go on a break for a month in the summer, we thought we could end by talking about some summer plans and how to continue to find wonder in ordinary traveling, or whether you're going abroad or like staying local. So that's like a glimpse of what this episode's about. But first, we have to start with drum roll.
Hi, hello, Buffalo.
Hello, Buffalo. That was not a drum roll because I could only do one hand.
It was close enough.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay, Sasha, you go first.
Okay. Low. Don't have one. My low is that I don't have a low. Yeah, we're going to go with that. My high is that I got to see my friend graduate from, with her, I don't know what degree she got. I don't think it's a maybe it's a master's. Whatever. She got a law degree.
Okay, cool.
And she is super, super duper smart. So that was pretty fun. And then my Buffalo, it's not really like crazy, but I guess Buffalo can be anything I want it to be. So I got to go with my mom to the beach on Saturday, and we just like spent the morning laying on the sand, tanning and then swimming in the water. And I totally almost had a panic attack because I thought I was going to drown, but I wasn't going to. I don't know. I was just scared of the water. I wasn't going to drown. The water was fine. I just freaked myself. I was like, I can't breathe. My mom's like, Stasha, relax. I was like, you're right. It's fine.
Oh, were you deeper? Or was it just like the cold?
No, the water got deep pretty fast, and it was probably up to my shoulders, which is kind of deep.
Okay.
But I think it's just like the pressure of the water on me. Yeah. I was just like freaking out. There's like fish in the water. And I don't know. I have PTSD from being stung as a kid by jellyfish. So it was fine. I was just being a baby. I was being a drama queen. But it's good. 2 seconds later is fine.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, sometimes every time I go into the water, the cold factor, you just have to push right through it.
Well, that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let me think. For me, my high is that I've just spent so much quality time with some of my closest girlfriends. And it's been super sweet, from like having like takeout Chinese food and just talking for like hours on a Friday night, to then like booking a day trip together from like this coast to the next in Florida, which is only like a 2-hour drive. So like stuff like that. It's been really sweet and good for my soul. Shout out to those girls. Love them. And then my low, I think, is that the leadership class I've been a part of with our church for the last few months is coming to an end. It's just like a really sweet class. And then
it is
the way it works is that you're in table groups the whole time. So my group that I've been leading, it's just me and 6 other ladies
for like 6 months, right?
Yeah. Well,
or is it more?
5
months.
Yeah, January to May.
When I did it, it was like 9 months.
Yeah,
it's
I know.
Crazy.
So it's been super sweet to journey through it with them, and they're just like my sisters now. So
I love that.
I won't see them weekly, but we already booked brunch on the schedule so we could like get together again.
Sweet.
Yeah. And let me think of a Buffalo. Oh, so for the first time in like years, I went to Lauderdale by the Sea, which is another beach you could go to here. And I just like didn't realize that the pier is broken there. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did. It was after
a hurricane.
the big hurricane, like,
but years ago.
Like 2 years ago, maybe?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
been a while, but
at least 2 years. Yeah.
I didn't process it
Mhm.
or think of it, and so I
Mhm.
went, and
You're
we
like, "Oh,
were
let's go on the pier," and they're
yeah,
like,
well, I
"What,
thought
Sammy?
about
What pier?"
I literally was like, "I wonder if the pier's free or not here," or whatever, and then when we got down, I didn't even notice it right away because I was just minding my business, talking and,
Yeah.
like, laying down, and then when we got in the water, I look over and I was like, "Oh my gosh, the pier's still broken."
Yeah.
So, that was kind of surprising, but yeah, that's my week. So, okay, let's jump right in.
Ooh.
One of the reasons we're going on break for June is because Stesha has some really cool travel plans, so do you wanna tell us about
I
that?
do. Yeah. Not only it kind of timed out perfectly. I mean, look at God with us kind of hitting the end of our first season right when I'm
Mhm.
about to leave, and we can both get a little fun break to spend time with our friends and family.
Yeah.
But I am going to be going to Europe for 3 weeks.
Ooh.
So at first the trip was going to be 2 weeks, and then I was like, my mom was like, "Why not three?" And it's like, you know what? You're right. Why not three? I was like, let me just ask, my boss to make sure it's okay. But essentially, we are going to first. We're gonna go to London for 2 nights, which I've never been, so I'm super excited. And then we are gonna be. The whole purpose of the trip was because we're going to Russia. My brother lives in Moscow, so we're gonna be going there right after London, and we'll be there for about 2 weeks. And I think the plans are to hopefully visit St. Petersburg for a couple days, but the majority of the time I'll be in Moscow.
Mhm.
And then after that, we will be flying on our way out. We'll be flying to Paris
I
and
love it.
spending like 2 nights there. And I've never been to Paris either. So I've
Mm.
only ever been to Russia and Germany and Turkey, I guess, in the airport. Those are the only countries I've been on that side of the world.
On that area.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so exciting. I can't wait for you to go to London. It's just one of my favorite
Yes.
places.
So Sammy actually got to study abroad over in England. Where
Yes.
exactly, Sammy?
I was studying at Oxford and
Oh, wow.
every
Wait,
time
you have to say that with, like, a British accent because that sounds like
Oxford. I can't do it. I lived there for 4 months and I still can't do it. It's fine. Yeah, I normally just say I studied abroad in England, and then if someone actually asks, like, what university or where in England, I'll share because sometimes I don't want it to sound snobby.
I want it to sound snobby because I think
Just
that's so
like
cool. Yeah, I studied at
Oxford?
Oxford. That's so
Every time
cool.
I say that, people's reactions kill me. I think it's funny.
Yeah, it's funny because they don't know the details of why or how you got there. They
Mhm.
automatically think like, "Oh, you're some rich kid who went to Oxford." Is that what they normally think?
No, I don't know. I mean, I've never really asked what they think. I think they're just always like, "Oh my gosh, like that's a really
Yeah.
hard, big, old
Or very,
school."
yeah,
Yeah.
hard to get
But
into too. That's
yeah,
awesome. I
honestly,
love that.
God blessed me with just like the opportunity through like a study abroad program. It lined up with one of my minors in school. So since I
That's
was
amazing.
minoring in biblical studies, I got to take some theology classes there.
Right.
And then I was in the honors program, so some other credits were like able to be from there. And then my scholarship like covered it and applied. So
That's crazy.
yeah,
Man.
praise God. Oh my gosh. But while I was there, I got to go to London because it's about like an hour and a half to 2 hours away from London,
Mhm.
depending on when you travel in the day. And I went quite a few times on either day trips or weekend trips.
Right.
And I just love that city so much. I don't know what it is about it. It's like beautiful and clean and fun. And I feel like people aren't necessarily mean either. It's not like they're like super friendly, but it doesn't feel
It's not
like
like Paris. I hear terrible things about Paris,
I
so
know I've heard that too.
I'm a little interested about that
I know
part.
I'm curious how your experience will be, but yeah, I just loved London and I don't know the vibes. And so I remember I was telling you some of the places I went to and stuff, so I can't wait to see where
Yes.
you go and everything. And then you've been to Russia before.
I have. I've already been twice. So the first time I went was a couple years ago, like 2 years ago for my brother's wedding. It's the main reason we went.
Mhm.
And then after that, like maybe 6 months after that, I went back for or just for New Year's because Russia does New Year's really, really well. Like that's
Aw.
like a thing there. So this will be my third time back and definitely not my last. So I'm really
Yeah.
excited. Actually, fun story, guys. I was on the metro with my friend who also I feel like is such a interesting like God story in a way. Is this friend? We both went to middle school. We were 1 year of middle school we were together in Sunny Isle, so here in Florida. When I lived
Mhm.
here for 2 years, that's when we met. We became friends. We were in the same class for not even like 7 months, I think, because then she moved to Russia
Oh,
back
wow.
home, and I moved back to Denver. Right, so we only knew each other for less than a year. We followed each other on Instagram, but didn't really keep up that much. Like maybe once every couple years, like swipe on a story and be like, "Oh, you're in Florida, cool." Like we didn't talk at all.
Yeah.
When I went for my brother's wedding, though, she saw that I was in Moscow, and she's like, "Hey, you're in Russia right now?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Do you want to hang out?" And
What?
I was like, "Okay, this girl's technically a stranger to me, but sure, I'll hang out with you."
Yeah.
So normally stranger danger, guys, but I don't know.
But she wasn't completely a stranger. You just
No.
didn't know her
Well, I hadn't spoken to her at least in
in
the last like
years.
12 years.
Yeah, it's more
Yeah.
so like a lost friend
Yes.
or
So
whatever.
we hung out, and we hung out for like the whole day, morning to evening. She showed me around the city, and we reconnected, and turned out we had a lot in common. Sometimes you reconnect with old friends and you realize that you really have grown up
Yeah.
into two different people and you just don't click anymore. But we did. And that kind of like grew. And so when I came back to visit the second time, we hung out.
Aw.
And that is the friend that I mentioned in the beginning who just got her law degree because she's a lawyer in Russia.
Oh,
So she came over
sweet.
here for a program to study to get her law degree in the US. So I thought it was really cool how God kind of connected us like that and
Yeah.
brought us back together, and that I got to even now show her around and help her around here and on stateside versus like in Russia. So
Yeah, that's so
it was
beautiful.
really cool. It's like it's cool, and you never know how God can bring people back together in your life.
Yeah.
And that all came about because I went to another country
Yeah.
with no intentions of that happening. But
Mhm.
God was like, I have things for you. Even though you're going on a trip for fun, even though this is a vacation or you're going to someone's wedding or whatever, God still had his plan in it. And it's just so cool how he, like, I don't know, brings things together, and he still has his like will working throughout it, even though
Yeah.
you're on vacation. God's not on
Yes.
vacation.
What's the phrase that I like? It's like oh, divine appointments,
Yeah, 100% divine appointment.
in
So
just like random
it just seems
situations.
seemingly random.
Well, I think one of the things that I love about traveling and like visiting new places and getting to know new people is that like I don't know, you get to see different parts of who God is because
Yeah,
God created cultures and he
for sure.
created us all to reflect him uniquely and beautifully. And so there's something I watched on an Instagram reel this week that I thought kind of went really well with like where we want to go in this episode.
Hmm.
But it was a reel from Tim Keller.
Yeah.
Um, and oh, I think his like anniversary of his passing was like yesterday or something.
Wow.
Or was it this morning? I don't know. But he's an incredible pastor. And you should definitely look up some of his content. But he passed like maybe 2 years ago. Actually, don't quote me on that. You know what? It's fine. He's great. And so he said in this video something along the lines of how in every single culture there's like things that need to be redeemed and corrected specifically, and then in every single culture there's also things that uniquely display the glory of God, that uniquely understand the gospel
Hmm.
that other cultures may not understand in the same way. And so it's just something cool. And it's a little bite of the whole video where he's talking specifically about his experience with that being an American, but studying with people from all around the world. And so I just thought, we could like pick each other's brains on what we've learned about God from our travel experiences,
Mm,
and then how we've stayed connected to God through traveling, because sometimes vacations or traveling can kind of get you off schedule.
right.
So that too.
Get you
But
out of your ordinary
yeah,
into someone else's ordinary.
exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, love that. So first, I don't know if you have any thoughts, but how have you grown in your faith or seen different parts of who God is from like traveling to new
Yes.
places?
Um, well, I have like a couple experiences of traveling where I got to see how people express their faith and love and worship to God in a couple different countries. So the three that I can think of, or I guess okay, we can do three. Was in Russia, right?
Hmm.
In Germany, and then in El Salvador.
Yeah.
So in Russia, I got to go into a lot of Russians are Eastern Orthodox.
Orthodox.
And so they're cathedrals, if you will. I don't know if that's what they're called, but
Hmm.
are absolutely stunning. And I got to go in a few, and it just was really, really cool to see how they worship God through their art and just how much detail. And you can find this in multiple different like Catholic cathedrals and other type, right? Like in other Orthodox cathedrals, it's not just in Russia, um, but in Russia, some of like the most like well known like
Yeah.
art in
It's
architecture
true,
and
it's
stuff
true.
can be found. And it was just absolutely stunning to see like that's like people spent their very like hard earned money and like talents and skills and the best workers to like create this stuff. And it just like you can't help but be in awe when you're
Yeah.
looking at that. I also got to visit some churches and talk with some local like people who are like believers and stuff. And it's just really cool to see how we do church here in the US is different than how they do
Mhm.
church there, but that doesn't mean that how our differences are makes one of us wrong, right?
Yeah.
There's just different expressions, and it's really, really cool for me to be taken out of what I think is normal into what someone else's normal is.
Yeah.
So that was a really cool thing, especially because I can understand the language. So I'm not just
Yeah.
sitting there being like, I have no idea what they're saying. No, I can understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
So it was really, really beautiful to see that. In Germany, I had the opportunity to go with our film team and go and record like a documentary about some refugees that were there from Ukraine. And it was cool seeing how they were worshiping and watching church from back home, but virtually, right? Because they couldn't
Yeah.
be there. So that was like another really cool stuff, cool thing. I didn't get to go to any German churches necessarily.
Yeah.
That would have been a
But
cool
you
thing.
also
But
got to hear, like, the stories from those
yes,
refugees.
the stories that they told of like how God provided and brought provision through their hard
Yeah.
circumstances. And even the fact of how I even got on that trip was a miracle. Which I don't know if you want me to tell that story briefly,
You can do it
but
really quick.
really quick, essentially, the night before I get a call asking if I want to go on this trip, and I'm like, what? What do you mean? So one of the people who was supposed to go on the trip, she ended up getting sick and not going. And so they called me up. They're like, yo, you want to come? And since I have like film experience and also I can speak Russian,
Yeah.
I was like, sure. And then the next morning, it wasn't until the next morning that I found out I was actually going because I honestly believed I was not going to go on this trip. I had never left the country in my life. I didn't actually think it was
Wow.
going to happen. But no, yeah, like 5 hours before the flight left, I packed my bags and made my way over and
Yeah.
ended up on this trip to
That's one of
Germany.
my favorite stories, oh my
And it's
gosh.
crazy because, like I said, I never had left the country in my life. So the fact that I even had a passport
Yeah, I
was
was
a
about to
God thing
say.
because if we go back a couple years, my brother was getting his passport because he was going to go visit Russia for the first time ever.
Mhm.
And I was like, hey, why don't I get my passport for fun? I don't need one, but like, I want one.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm not going to let my little brother get a passport before me.
Yeah.
And so I went and got a passport with him, but I never used it until that moment many years later.
That's
So I feel like
incredible.
God had let that happen or maybe like prompted me to get my passport because he knew I would need it a few years later.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't for that,
You couldn't,
I would
yeah.
have never gotten my passport until there was a real trip that would happen. So
Yeah, exactly.
all like the ways that God like works. And then the last thing was El Salvador. I got to go on a missions trip there
Mhm.
and just seeing how the local people do church there is really cool. Like their church is like outdoors kind of,
Yeah.
under like a roof and just the way that the kids worship and the women and the men and how they do outreaches and getting to be a part of that even though I spoke and understood absolutely nothing. I knew nothing, but even then so I was able to connect with children and women who we knew that we didn't speak the same language, but we had the same God who
Yeah.
connected us. And that
Yeah.
was really cool to be a part of that, just like being in community with those people, even though
Yeah.
we spoke nothing of the same thing.
Oh, that's so cool, Stasha. I love that. I think that one of my favorite parts of traveling has been because I think for the most part, my travels to other countries have been on different sorts of mission trips or with the intention of like at least trying to meet local believers. Because even when
Right.
I studied abroad, I was like, well, I'm going to live here for 4 months. Let me get involved with the church, go to a small group.
Yeah.
And so all those experiences for me have just like deeply, deeply enriched my view of who
Hmm.
God is and my relationship with Him because I think sometimes it's easy, especially in America, a hot take, to get so caught up in how we worship and view God that we start
Yeah.
to think it's the only way, or we start to think that we start to like merge certain cultural lifestyles and beliefs
As,
with
like, facts,
scripture
yeah.
as if
Mhm.
it's the same as what God commands, and that's not always true. Like the lifestyle and culture of America and the mindset of America is different than the mindset you'll find in like, like you said, El Salvador. I've been to like Mexico, it's different there. I've been to the Netherlands, it's different there.
Right.
And like those parts of culture that aren't inherently like sinful, um, like those can reflect different things,
Yeah.
or just you have different priorities in different places.
Yeah, and I've definitely fallen into that trap of, like, believing that we do it right and
Yeah.
everyone else is wrong, but I think the beauty of God, like, allowing me to be on these trips and to experience, like, what how people express their love for him in different places around the
Yeah.
world really helped open my mind that I'm like, "Yo, girl, if you were, like, transported back to Jesus's time, you'd probably would have thought they were doing crazy stuff and not
Yeah.
agreed." So, it's
Yeah.
like it's really cool how God can work with us like
Yeah,
that.
because he humbles us.
Yeah.
And that I don't know, I feel like that's just so important, and sometimes if you're resistant to it, then you're
Mm,
not gonna reap the beautiful growth and fruit that comes from it,
yeah.
because you're gonna be, like, resistant to God's humbling of you, like,
Mhm.
and so, yeah, I guess for me, I've been able to go to Mexico quite a few times to just like serve with one of our church plants. Well, we have multiple. So just to visit and serve with like the church plants that we have
Mhm.
there. And one of my best friends from high school, she's like from Merida in Mexico, and she's like super involved with that church. So she came and studied in the States in high school with me, and we became super close. And then when I went for the first time, like I went with her, and now, like, the last two times I've been and seen her, which is so
Wow.
sweet. And we keep up, but I think that was my very first airplane ride, period, was out of the country my junior year of high school to Mexico for that trip, and then I went again as a senior, and these last 2 years I've gone as, like, an adult leader, and it's just so cool when you go to the same place, more than once, specifically in a ministry setting, to see, like, the progress or to see how, like, the people you met, you get to catch
Mhm.
up with them again and hear what God's done and how they're growing. And some people have like maybe someone new in the family,
Right.
like, someone had a baby, or maybe some like a church is growing and there's a new building or whatever. And so that stuff is super cool to see. But then in my other experiences, kind of like what you said, it's just opened my eyes to like how beautiful it is to have the same connection
Yeah.
to someone through the Holy Spirit.
Mhm.
So when I went to Guyana, on another trip, the church there, um, it's growing, but it's also like in a community where basically all of the country has a lot of people in Islam and Hinduism, and then there's like Christianity. So those are the three biggest religions, but then there's also some like more native, like, you know, I forget the word we would use to describe it. Like witchcraft, basically,
Mm.
So all of those things are very present there. So you kind of like feel the tension, but
Wow.
they're not hostile towards each other. So that's really cool. Like there's not really conflict between each other. They're very peaceful people, but you feel the tension almost with like in the spiritual realm of things.
Wow. Right.
So I mean, I don't think everyone maybe experiences that, but I just like felt like I could
For
sense
sure.
that. And also, while we were there, the way they worship too is just so much more expressive than you might be used to. So they like to dance and to like kind of hop with their arms up while they're singing, and the music of the worship style, um for their music is very like reggae, like almost island vibe.
Mm.
So Guyana itself isn't an island, but it borders a lot of islands like Barbados and close to Jamaica, not close to Jamaica, but there's Jamaican influence a little bit. So that style,
Okay.
imagine that style of like music and the way
That's really
people
cool.
talk. That's what it's like there. Um, and so that was a trip I got to go on only a few months before going to England. And so when I went to England, it was like the complete opposite. I got to go to an Anglican church there, and it's just very like um chill, and barely anyone will like sway or put their hands up during worship, but people are singing with their whole like throat. Like they're singing so loud,
Wow.
but they're just not really like moving.
Yeah, that can be similar in the Russian church too.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like in Europe, in the history of European churches, like if it's an older church in Europe, it feels like it could be more like that. And the songs also sound more traditional, like,
Right, right.
but they're beautiful songs with so much rich theology in them that sometimes
Mhm.
I'm reading a lyric and I'm like, wow, this is telling me a lot right now, versus like some American style worship
It's
songs
more about the
that
feeling
recently
and
are like very repetitive and you hear the same chorus. But anyways, all that to say, I feel like it's been truly such a blessing to travel and actively like seek out the experiences of what like a local expression of faith or of Christianity specifically is.
yeah.
Even then though, like just opening your eyes to try and learn from other cultures and from other religions at times too is just helpful, with the mentality of how can I like learn more about maybe these people so that I could love them and show them who
Mhm.
Jesus is. Because
Mhm.
even in college, I got to visit a mosque a few times and a synagogue for a class, and getting to just have open conversations. And to see what they worship
Right.
or how they worship and what they think about us as Christians, but also me getting to ask them questions. It helped bridge a gap, and it could lead to like a really cool conversation either with them or later with someone you meet who may be from that religion,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So, anyways, I just wanted to like um encourage anybody listening to not be afraid to explore and learn from other people who are different than us,
Yeah.
but
And I would encourage you, like, if you're traveling for an extended period of time and you have the opportunity to go and visit a local church in whatever city you're in, I promise you, you won't regret it.
yeah,
Even if you don't like the service and you're like, like I wouldn't go to this church. I still think there's a lot to learn and to see, and you never know what God might show you through that. Like when I'm gonna go to Europe for the next 3 weeks, I won't have time. I won't be there on a Sunday in London or Paris, unfortunately. But when I'm going to be in Russia, I do want to go visit another church
yeah,
and just check it out because you never know like the people you might get connected to and
yeah,
meet. God can have more divine appointments for me. I don't know.
yeah, exactly. I think he always is, and so
Yeah.
just praying that he would open your eyes to that. And I
Hmm.
think too, on these like opportunities to travel,
Yeah.
sometimes it's more for, I don't know, a lighthearted reason or vacation or just to like,
Yeah, I mean, I mostly travel for pleasure, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
my
yeah,
percentage of travel that's for work or for mission trips or something like that is very small. So we're I mean, at least for myself, I'm not trying to say that, oh, I travel with the intent of spreading the gospel. No, like
uh-huh.
that's always a cool thing that can happen, but that's not always the reason for your travels, right? And I think that's
Yeah.
okay. Like you should
Yeah,
enjoy your
that's totally
time.
okay. Some people travel for work, some
Right.
people travel with missions or studying. Like I've had a literally like all of those categories fit my like travel experience, but
Right.
I think it's cool how you get to like travel with Jesus. I don't know, that's one of my favorite parts too, especially when I'm solo traveling, but even if I'm in a group, like I get to actively think about how Jesus is with me, and I'm never alone, like he's with me literally anywhere. And
Mhm.
so how do you try and stay connected to Jesus when you're out of your ordinary but also
Mhm.
exploring something else that is someone else's ordinary?
Yeah, I think it can be hard when you're going on like really long trips because you're going to be gone out of your normal ordinary for sometimes weeks on end or days, right? If it's a quick day trip, like obviously you're still praying and talking to God.
Yeah.
But when it's like let's say like I'm going to be gone for almost a whole month, right?
Yeah.
Does that mean that I don't read my Bible for a whole month? Does that mean I don't talk to God for a whole month? Does that mean I don't do whatever? And I personally would never want to be away from being fed spiritually for that long.
Yeah.
So while I might not have the same type of intense studying in the scripture that I would when I'm at home, I
Mhm.
still want to make sure that Jesus is coming along with me on the way.
Yeah.
And so, one thing I've done is I'll take like a devotional or
Mhm.
maybe like one of those book studies. Like when I went to Russia for New Year's, I brought along a study that's like a kind of like a devotional study through the book of Mark. And I did
Yeah.
that while I was there, right? You can either listen to the Bible like audibly on your phone. So I'm
Yeah.
doing the year in um, the Bible recap. Um, Yeah, you're in the Bible,
Yeah.
whatever. I'm doing the Bible recap thing, so I'm still gonna listen to that every day and keep up because I don't want to be 3 weeks behind. That would cause me to have anxiety. And then that's like what 15 minutes out of my day in the morning while I'm getting ready. I can listen to that, and then just that's kind of how I like to stay connected. And there's different ways, and depending on how you like to stay connected to God, it can look differently. Sammy, do you have anything different or the same that you'd like to
Yeah.
do?
Well, I normally try if I'm going on a trip where I'm not flying and I kind of have my car or something to take my like Bible, like you
Yeah,
said, with a Bible study maybe, or my journal because I'm such a like hands
yeah.
like wanting to write and highlight person. But there's been trips that I've taken that I just have a carry on or something, and I'm like always like, oh
I know the
man,
Bible, like my Bible's like 5 pounds.
yeah,
Like,
my Bible's big, but I have a thin line one, so sometimes I'll take my thin one, or if not, then I'll just really rely on my phone and use the YouVersion Bible app,
hmm,
and I'll do like devotional plans on there, or if I have my smaller line Bible, I'll like read from there. But I think that something I try to do too is just adjust maybe the type of devotional I do, and it may not be like a whole book study, but it might be a plan on an app on my phone.
yeah,
And then I think on top of that, just like trying to pray throughout the day as you might would do in everyday life.
yeah,
And also there's something beautiful about when you're traveling for vacation or for seeing other people or
hmm,
for pleasure where you are getting to enjoy God. And I think part of the calling he's given us is to enjoy him because
hmm,
Jesus says that he comes to give life and life abundantly
hmm.
and that we're built for community and relationship. So for me, when I'm going on a more vacation type of travel with either my family or friends, or I'm going to visit people that I haven't seen in a while, I just really try and pray that the Lord would be at the center of those conversations and experiences so that we could like encourage one another. So, one of my most recent trips, I was visiting my friend Hill in Alabama, and it was so fun. It was only like 2.5 days, maybe like one, no, it was like 2.5 days, and I got to go and we just spent a lot of time together. We went to a concert and we got to hear about each other's lives and encourage each
Hmm.
other. And that was super sweet to me, you know? So I feel like God's also in those experiences if you invite him into it. And I remember on my
Right.
way there, I was like journaling that the Lord would just allow it to be really encouraging to each other. And on the way back, I remember journaling like so with so much gratitude for
Hmm.
what he did. I feel like sometimes honestly, most of the time when I'm traveling in some sort of way, I get to um, hear from the Lord, or at least kind of feel like there's more confirmation or direction given to me
Yeah.
because it takes you out of your ordinary.
Right.
Not that you should be living in a constant state of trying to be
Yeah.
extraordinary or
You can't
whatever.
cheat the
Like,
system.
yeah,
Like,
but I feel like there's something special about getting out of your ordinary life to a new place or to visit an old friend, or even if it's in your own backyard, going to a new coffee shop or a new park in your neighborhood. Like,
yes.
there's an element of just refreshing that comes with
Hmm.
that, and also trying to like still your heart to listen to God in a new
Yeah.
way. So that's kind of my encouragement with how you can stay connected to God and make any travel
I love that.
experience like just so beautiful and wonderful.
I know. Why wouldn't you want Jesus on your trip with you?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Um
amazing.
so yeah, so honestly, just because we should be wrapping up, I wanted to add a final thing, a final challenge, if I may. I think that with the summer coming up, there's opportunities to practice this. So I just
Hmm.
want to challenge you guys. You could do one or both, whatever. If you're going on a trip that takes you far away for a long period of time, then try to take a journal with you and just spend a little bit of time every day reflecting on what you saw, what you learned, and praying to God and being intentional about inviting Him into the journey with you. And if you don't have any big trips planned, you don't even have to. You could just do a staycation or in your own backyard, try and like explore a new place intentionally with God
Hmm.
and ask Him to go with you on it, and maybe take your Bible, take a book to read, whatever,
Yeah.
but do something in your own backyard that's a little bit adventurous or out of your comfort zone with the intention of saying, Lord, I want to do this with you and just enjoy it and see you in my own backyard. So those are kind of my like summer challenges for you guys.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, I'm
Hmm.
definitely gonna be doing that. I think
Yeah.
sometimes, which you kind of said this already, but we need to be taken out of, you get so used to seeing everything around you because it's just the same thing, you know? It's like when you're in one room and the smell smells like, oh, it's like how people don't know what your house smells like.
Yeah.
Like, you know, because you're just always there. But then
Yeah.
you go to someone else's house and every house has a smell. And
It
so you
does.
don't notice it until you're in a new environment. And same thing with like seeing things. So it's cool that when you're just, even if it's slightly shifted out of your ordinary, you will start to notice things that you didn't notice before because it's
Yeah.
new. And God can do lots of really cool things.
You
Just
get perspective.
new perspective. It's really fun. So if you're feeling stuck, this is the summer. Get new perspective,
Yeah.
whether you're traveling abroad or not, even if it's just down the street. So
Hmm.
we hope this episode encourages you guys and blesses you as we head into the summer, the hot months. Like we said in the beginning, this is the kind of end of season one. Wow.
Yeah.
Season two will be back in about a few weeks, a month
A
ish,
month. Yeah.
just about. So 4 or 5 weeks or so. Until then, we cannot wait, but please stay connected with us on social media. We're not going anywhere there. So
Yeah.
we hope to, well, not hope, we will see you guys very soon.
Yes. Feel free to message us any ideas of topics you'd want to hear in the next season,
Season
too.
two is going to be great. More guests, more fun topics. So
Mhm.
we are excited for it. But
Yeah. Well, have a wonderful summer and we'll see you soon.
yes, bye.
Bye.